Chapter 3 of the Hunger Games. So here are the things that I noticed. The Anthemens were taken into custody, so that's where we're picking up in this story. And I love that she says on the bottom of 34 that crying is not an option. There will be more cameras at the train station. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think that has a lot of parallels to other characters. We get a little background on Prim in this chapter. She says that she doesn't bother suggesting Prim learn to hunt. I tried to teach her a couple of times and it was disastrous. The woods terrified her, and whenever I shot something, she'd get teary and talk about how we might be able to heal it if we got it home soon enough. I think that's so important because as we move forward and in Catching Fire, when she proposes running away with Gale, if Prim doesn't have to run away, Prim is not running away. Like unless her life depends on it, that's not an option for her. She doesn't like the wilderness like Katniss does. I love on page 37 where she says that they always wait to trade with Peeta's dad until after the mom has left. And she says the witch of a wife because he's so much nicer is what she says. And I think that's interesting because maybe Peeta takes after his dad. Ultimately, this is all we get is him coming to the train station, bringing her cookies, and you see that he is nicer, and maybe that's why Peeta is nice. I love that she says that the cookies are a luxury that they couldn't afford. And I still really haven't pieced together why he brings those cookies other than he was in love with her mother and maybe he feels obligated. Maybe he feels like he wants to do something nice because he did love her mom when they were young. I also just think that Katniss is likable. She doesn't see that in herself. She says, people deal with me, but they are genuinely fond of Prim. I think she's a lot more likable than she realizes. You would not be able to stir the entire country into a rebellion, be the face of a movement, and move people the way she does if she wasn't likable. But she only has her perspective, and she's a typical 16-year-old, 17-year-old girl. She doesn't see the power that she has, and she self-deprecates. Gale comes and says goodbye, and this is where we get red flag Gale all over again. He says, Katniss, it's just hunting. You're the best hunter I know. You've had practice, real practice. You know how to kill, not people, she says. How different can it be, really? If it's life or death, I'm sure that you could shut off a part of your humanity, little Vampire Diaries humor there, and I'm sure you could figure it out and use your survival skills and your hunting instincts to survive. The awful thing is that if I can forget their people, it really will be no different. But that's the thing that I think Gale never really fully understands about her. Gale and her do not operate the same, and that becomes more apparent as we move through the series. Then we get this really important moment where he is yelling back to her as he's being pushed out the door. She says, don't let them starve. He says, I won't. You know, I won't, Katniss. Remember, and that's it. They yank us apart, they slam the door, and I'll never know what he wanted me to remember. I think this is so important because, like, what do you think he was going to say? I also think this is honestly, like, Gale coded. How manipulative that you didn't get to finish your sentence. Like, it's not intentional. He doesn't intentionally not finish his thought. But the fact that he doesn't get to, it just really plays into where, like, we're never on the same page with Gale. I don't think Gale is the type to outwardly express a lot of love or emotion. So I think here he might have been saying something like, remember, I believe in you. So then she gets in the car with Peeta and she says that she's never been in a car before. Rarely even ridden in wagons. In the scene, we travel on foot. And I think that's so interesting because it's just adding to the culture and the world building of Panem. Like, she's never been in a car. And then we get a really important tidbit about Peeta. She says that all the years of having enough to eat and hauling bread trays around have made him broad-shouldered and strong. I think that people forget that. I don't know if it's because they initially automatically assume Peeta is Josh. I don't know if they just weren't paying a lot of attention. I don't know if they undersell him because of his kindness. But Peeta has spent his life, he was hauling around grain for his mother and his father as the baker's apprentice. So the fact that he's built strengthily, he's built hardily, is important. And it makes him someone who later in the text, the careers want to align themselves with. And she says, I've never been on a train, as travel between the districts is forbidden except for officially sanctioned duties. We get a little bit more about her life in the scene. We get a little bit more of this control and world building where the capital is keeping the districts separate. And by separating them, they're weakening them because they can't come together. They can't meet and form a plan. It's interesting. In school, they tell us that the capital was built in a place once called the Rockies. District 12 was in a region known as Appalachia. I live in Appalachia. Somehow it all comes back to coal at school. Besides basic reading and math, most of our instruction is coal related. The capital limits what the children learn in school. And it's a tactic. Keeping them uninformed, you are effectively controlling them. You're limiting knowledge and thus you're limiting power. Later, she says that she gets on the train and she has a hot shower, and they don't have hot water at home unless they boil it. And she's never had a shower before. She takes baths, but they have to heat that, and it's like a really hard system. I think that's so interesting because, again, it's showing you the discrepancy between the upper class and the lower class. You get a small note about the pin. It's something of a slap in the face to the Capitol. We get the backstory where the Jabberjays mated with the female mockingbirds, creating a whole new species that likes whistling in human melodies. They can sing whole songs if you have patience to sing to them and they like your voice. And then she says, my father was particularly fond of mockingjays. Not everyone is treated with such respect as her father was by the birds. They don't always sing back to people unless their singing is good. Whenever my father sang, all the birds in the area would fall silent and listen. There's something comforting about the little bird on the pin. It's like having a piece of my father. The bird is connected with respect, and I think that's huge, okay? Like, they will only treat some people with respect. And it's a lot like Katniss. So she is someone who becomes respectable. Not that she wasn't initially. She's a wonderful person. She helps her family. She volunteers for her sister. But she becomes more and more important to the country and becomes more and more respectable. She also is someone who doesn't easily give her respect. So she mirrors the Mockingjay in that way. Oh, here's the line I was looking for last chapter. So they get on the train and they are watching the footage back from the day. And District 12 is last. So she sees Prim being called and herself running forward to volunteer. The commentators are not sure what to say about the crowd's refusal to applaud. The silent salute. One says that District 12 has always been a bit backward, but the local customs are charming. But that's the thing. The Capitol sees anything that's not theirs as different and charming, but with a negative connotation. If you're not Capitol, then you're the one that's bizarre. Try to make a positive spin on it, but ultimately they make the district sound unintelligent. And we end the chapter with Haymitch staggering out of the compartment and then vomiting everywhere. I love how Suzanne Collins paces the book so that every chapter leaves you on something where you really kind of want to keep reading. Thanks for joining for chapter 3, and I promise I'll get chapter 4 out more quickly.